This is Gemara in Kiddushin, Daf Mem Zayin, the Daf for Erev Yontif Baruch Hashem, and hopefully, B'siyata Dishmaya, we'll try to get up the Daf for at least the first day, Shabbos, and maybe even the second day, sometime early tomorrow morning. But for now, we're holding on Mem Vavam and Beis, the last line, Amar Rava. Says Rava, now Rava's really picking up a conversation from yesterday. Rav is really picking up within the Shita of Rav Ami that said in the case of the Haisa Oicheles Tamarim, it's going on the second case in the Mishnah of Bezu. And therefore the last date has to be worth a Shava Pruta because the former ones are considered a halva. So says Rava, qualifying in this din as we turn over to Mem Zayin Amid Aleph, Lo Yishanu, this din of Rav Ami is only applicable Ella Di Amar La Bezu. Only in that case, as Rashi points out, do we have the din that the first date that she ate is not mitzaref lepruta, that we view each one independently, and rather we do not view the first one combined with the others. Aval Amar Lo Be'ilu, Afilu Ba'achas Nami Mikudeshes. But says Rava, if he told her you're to be married with all of these, then Be'ilu with these, then the halacha is that the formers are not considered a halva. Mishanigmar Adibar, rather it's all one big story, and therefore they will indeed be mitzaref l'shava pruta. Why? Ki ka'achla b'din avsha ka'achla. The reason being because if she chooses in such a scenario to eat the dates, b'din avsha ka'achla, she is eating from her own. Continues the Gemara, Tanya kavase de Rava. The Gemara continues with the raya to Rava that he just said, it's actually ba'alon berimos be'egois. Someone says, marry me with these three entities, with a pomegranate, a pomegranate or a nut. Aisha says her skachli be'ilu with all of these. The halacha is imish bekulan javeh pruta mikudeshes v'im lav eina mikudeshes. However, if he says bezu, imish bekulan javeh pruta mikudeshes v'im lav eina mikudeshes. Bezuna tlavachlasa, bezuna lasvachlasa, va'id bezu. Then eina mikudeshes sheba achas v'en shava pruta. So says the Gemara, this price of Rava, hi balon b'rimen of egois. Echidami, what's the case? He says he wants to marry her with either this or that. Are you telling me that they're all mitzaref? He said, or. So how could he tell me bekulan? Ve'ela, what must the case have been that he said? Says Gemara, is the same thing. So why is the din different? What are we referring to over here? So that's the raya to Rava that in a scenario says Rava. If he says ve'ilu, efilu oicheles, she is mikudeshes because she's eating from her own, and they are mitzaref le pruta. Asks the Gemara 1 second. Hamiditani seifa, but the seifa of that brisa teaches us. It says explicitly the case of Elu, which clearly implies B'chal Dereisha Lav Elu Askinan. And the Gemara answers in classical Gemara form, Parushe Kamefarshi. No, the Bryce is explaining itself. Kate said, what's the case going down? Really says there, Skachli Be'elu. Vekadani Seifa. Bezuna Lasa Achlasa Vishvachsa Shava Prutamikdashes. V'mlaveinu Mikdashes. V'ilu Bereisha. Like a maflik. Beina Echeles. Lemunachas. Shmamina. Klechdamla Be'elu Ki Ka'achla. Then what's the halacha? B'din Avsha Ka'achla. Shma Mina. And that is the raya to Rava. Continues the Gemara, 6 lines from the white lines. Ha-nicha, again, we wind the climb back to the beginning of yesterday's daf, in how we're learning the final case in our Mishnah. Ha-nicha l'man da'amar avami, a-seifa koi. As his final case of her eating it is going the seifa of bezu, bezu. What do the Mishnah mean when it says until there is one of them? Shava pruta, excuse me. Ache bachreina shava pruta. Hachanami. So here as well, ache bachreina shava pruta. Ella asked the Gemara l'Ravu Shmuel. Damri tarvayu areisha koi. Rav and Shmuel say we're going back on the first case. Vaycheletz itzrichle. And what is the reason why? What's the chiddush of vaycheletz? Hacha klal chashiv prata like a chashiv. Hamani Rebbe. Then it only works shita of Rebbe. Damar loishan uksayis ksayis loishan uksayis prata have. Whether he says ksayis ksayis or ksayis uksayis, either way, he's delineating each item independently. We continue with the first wide line. The first wide line, Mem Zayin Amid Aleph. Once we're on the discussion of the fact that the marriage potentially is morphing into a halva, into a loan, says the Gemara, what is the story? Someone marries a woman with a loan. Someone marries a woman with an IOU. He says to Reuven tells to Rachel, I want to marry you with the money that I gave you already. So he didn't actually give her money. He had given her money in the past. So he says, that money you keep, and we'll be married. What is this story? Amarav Hamekadesh b'milva einoi mikudeshes. Why? A milva by its very nature is meant to spend. Therefore, if he had given her money in the past, that money is no longer here because that money was spent, and therefore Hamekadesh b'milva, says Rav, einoi mikudeshes. Says the Gemara, Nema Kitanoi. Let's say that this din of Rabba of Mekadesh v'milva is a machlokes Tanoim. Ha-Mekadesh v'milva einoi mikudeshes. V'yishar mikudeshes. My love, what is the machlokes of these brises? Ba'akam mifligi. The Mar Savar. Milva leitzanina, Mar Savar, Milva leitzanina. So says the Gemara, seemingly whether you spend a halva or not is a machlokes. The Tizbra, I asked the Gemara, is this true that this is the machlokes? Ema Seifa, Vishavan, everyone agrees. B'mecher, Shezer Kana, everyone agrees in the case of a mecher that it's going to work. But if you're going to tell me that a milva was originally to spend, but my Kana, where's the Kenyan? Why would everyone agree that if it is a type of mecher that it's going to work, that even though they're arguing whether the halva could be used for a Kiddushin, they both agree that you could buy, again, let's just explain. What does it mean that Vishavim, that they agree that if it's a mecher, what that means is if I lend someone $100, and then I say to them, you know what, that $100, I want to use that and purchase your watch with it. So says the Gemara, everyone agrees that works. But ask the Gemara 1 second, if it's a machlokes, whether a milva is lahaitza, whether the money is given to spend or not, b'mai kani, then how am I making a kinyan even on an item? Forget the isha. So Amar Rav Nachman, Huna chavrai mukila b'mili achroi. Huna, our friend, explains the brayso with a different story. Doesn't mean you previously meant the money. V'achamay Going Sha'amar laws kachli mimana v'nimsa mana chasa dinner. He says to her, I want to marry you the $100. He gives it to her. She counts and guess what? It's only 99. So Mar Savar Kseifa Milsa Mitzvah. She's embarrassed. She's marrying this man, and what? She's gonna ask for $1 extra. Mar Savar Kseifa Milsa Mitzvah. And that's the case that Rav Nachman is saying. That is the case of the Seifa, that Vishavin, that b'mecher, it's going to work. Asks the Gemara, but that which Rav Elazar says, marry me with the money, and he only gives her a dinar. I raise him mikudashes v'yashlim, and he has to pay the rest. Are you going to tell me that this din is a machloikas tanoim, whether she's going to be embarrassed to ask for the rest of the money or not? Says the Gemara, no. Amri, dinner. If you're missing $1, you get 99 out of 100 on that. We go psychological. That is understandable. If the woman's in a field, what? I'm going to ask for the final dollar. But if it's only $1 and you're 99, everyone agrees, like Sefer Milsla Mitzvah, she would not be embarrassed to ask for it, and therefore this is not subjective to that Machlokes Tanoim. Asks the Gemara, Meisvei Akasha and Rav, the Rav says you could marry with a halva. He says to woman, marry me with the bekadain, which I had given you in the past. He gave her a watch as a security, as a collateral. Now he wants to marry her with that item. And she goes to Matzah, she finds out that, guess what? Unfortunately, the item was lost or stolen. If there's a prutas left of it, mikudashes. V'imla ve'ina mikudashes u'milva. If it wasn't a pikadon, it was a milva. Afal bi shaloi nishtayir emenu shaveh bruta. Even if there's not even one shaveh bruta left, mikudashes. Shemir Lazar, Shemir Meir. Milva, when it comes to alone, arehi kipi kadon. It's like a pikadon. So we have a machlek as whether in the scenario of a milva, whether the same halacha would apply. So says the Gemara on the top of Mem Zayin Amid Beis. Kan loy pligi el demar. Savar, what's the machlekes? One opinion holds. Milva gavlon shayim and shaveh bruta. Milva even is not a shaveh bruta left. It works. Omar seven shayim and shaveh bruta in. V'leina shayim and shaveh bruta loy. Aval the kuliyam mekadish milva mikudashes. But everyone holds lamaisa. If you're Mekadesh and Milva, it's going to work. And that is the end of the Gemara's Kasha and Raf. That seemingly we see from this Brisa, we might have a sidebar machlekes whether the Shayir Shavah Bruta or not. But everyone is learning, not like Rav, everyone is learning that Mekadesh and Milva is going to be Mekudashes. Amar Rava responds to answer for Rav. V'tizra hamitarza hamishtabeshti. You telling me this is how you answer? This is a mistake. Says Rava, you know why? Hi pikadain in the Brisa itself. What is this case of pikadain echidami? If it's a pikadain in which he accepted achrayis, hainu milva tzimni as alva. If he didn't accept achrayis, then Yachi has a tani sefer that which the sefer said. Oben milva v'ishad nishayim menu shaveh bruta. Shaveh bruta mikudashes by halvah. The way it's going to work. Niflik v'nisni v'didei. We should differentiate in the case itself. But medvar mamum shali karbel achrayis. Aval karbel achrayis avagav lo nishtayir menu shaveh bruta mikudashes. Ella teretz hachi. So rather, says Rava, we have to learn the Brisa as follows. Ubemilve, afal bi shenishtayri menu shaveh bruta, eina miku dashes. It's not going to be a good Kiddushin. And on that, so says the Gemara, that's what we're going to answer up for Rav. Says the Gemara, but if that's the answer between Rameir and Shimon Elazar, Shimon Elazar Rameir versus Tanakama. But Michael Mifli, what exactly is the machlekes? Amar Rabba, Shechin l'Rabbanan be'Rav, Tiasi v'Kamri b'Milveh versus Bailim l'Chazara v'Adin l'Oinsin ka Mifli. Where is the halva considered to be had? Is it from the Bailim or by the Loiveh? Demaris of a Milveh versus Loiveh Kaim. The bar is considered like he has the Milveh. V'Adin l'Oinsin, and the same thing for Oinsin. Omar Savam Milveh says Bailim Kaim Ivu Adin La'insin. V'amina leho La'insin Kuli Amblei Plig. And I argue that's not the machlekes. Different just live kaimi v'ayinsim is certainly just live. My time all garim she'ela so worse than she'ela. Ma she'ela when you borrow something, and of course these little bit of difficult concepts as we haven't learned all the different intricate dinim of she'ela, of borrowing, of schiras, etc., which we'll get to Mirz Hashem. It says the Gemara, Ma she'ela the hadra be'ena, when you borrow something, you have to return the item intact. And yeah, what's the halacha? You're chayav ba'insim. Milva, when it comes to a halva, says the Gemara, like kol shekain. Elahachas, we have to say the machlekes is milva versus bailin lechazara ikaveinayu. Says the Gemara, what's that? Can you tell me that's the machlekes? Well, Ravuna, if you borrow an axe, bikaba you chop the kana, it's a kinyan, like bikaba like kana. So it comes out that this case of whether you make a kinyan on the item that you borrowed by using it is a machlekes tanayim. They make it tanayim the shvayitz. Says Gemara loy ad kan loy pligi el ben milved loy hadrabina. You don't return it intact. Avol b'sheila the hadrabina. Divri akol baka by in loy baka by loy kana. Says the Gemara, and that's how we're going to answer up the kasha for Rav. Nema kitanai, and we conclude. Says the Gemara, let's say that whether you can be mekadesh with alva, it's machlekes tanayim. Miskach livish darchay vayshayolay milva bi'aracheir v'hir sha'aleim, and he wrote the power of attorney on that document. Ramir mekadesh l'chamer eino mekudeshes. Haish darchay v'chidam yilim v'sh darchay v'dacheirim. Hainu milva bi'aracheir, it can't be. Elav darchay v'dida. And says the Gemara, and what's the machlekes? They're arguing about mekadesh be milva. Says the Gemara, no, that's not the machlekes. Eilam shtar chayv da'acheirim. V'cham b'milva b'shtar milva apekam miflegi. B'milva b'shtar my poglig. What's the machlekes? You have a loan in a document. B'vlokter Rabbi Rabbanikam miflegi. The Tanya Isis nicknames b'misira. Letters are required with just giving it over to the Rav Chamer Bench Kasav Leimasav Bench Kasav Leikasav. Like on Ajil Davim, so you have to actually write it and give it over. That's the only way to write a good old-fashioned IOU. Mar Slay Derebi, Mar Less Slay Derebi. That's going to be one teretz that answer the Raisas. We'll go with another teretz the next year. B'siyato Dishmayo.